Hello and welcome back to Forza Motorsport 7, and we are talking about BMW. Now, I was at a car show, and this guy was selling Hot Wheels and Matchbox model cars. And there was a BMW 1M from Matchbox on display that you could buy for like $3, so I didn't buy it, but I still looked at it. And it was, for whatever reason, Matchbox mistakenly labeled it as the M1. And for those who are not BMW nerds, the 1M and the M1 are very different cars. This is the M1, specifically the Pro car, and that is one of the only two mid-engine BMWs ever made. The 1M is a sports coupe, similar to the M2 that replaced it. Very different cars. However, coincidentally, in Forza, they're both in C-Class, and they're less than 30 PI away from each other. And if you're not seeing where this is going, you've clearly never watched this channel before. Because I decided to do a bit of a test, a bit of a race, you know? See which one, the M1 or the 1M, is faster. And also look at the general comparison, which is what we are going to start off with first. This is the 1M, and it was basically BMW's entry-level M Division car. And it's a pretty fun car to drive. It is a bit heavy, 3,300 pounds, but it does have a fair bit of power, over 300 horsepower. And that makes it pretty darn good, It's not the easiest to slide around. I tried it. It didn't work very well. But, I digress. I personally never liked the look of the 1M. I much prefer the M2, which is basically, again, the replacement for this car. It's a good thing they replaced it, because I don't like the look of it. It just looks bland. Like, someone said, draw a generic look of car. Okay, generic look of car is drawn. Yay! That's probably what they did. Anyway, it is obviously more modern than the M1. In fact, it's 30 years its senior, and that's a fair distance. You know, evolution of technology, suspension, tires, all sorts of things. But there's still some pretty serious competition from the M1. This slidey vehicle is much older, 1981 I believe is this vehicle, and, well, besides being BMW's only mid-engine car until the i8, which was 33 years later, it certainly looks a fair bit more creative than the 1M. I wouldn't say it looks better, it's certainly a different look. It's not too shabby, but it's not my favorite, I will be honest. It's not too shabby, though it is certainly much more creative. They actually had some fun designing this, and probably on a few drugs. But, yeah, it is mental. It's got a 277 horsepower V6 rear-wheel drive. And, well, it doesn't weigh very much, which is, always good. But that does mean it's rather slidey. Rather slidey, as you see. The handling is nowhere near as planted as the, 1M. I mean, that's to be expected, it's 30 years old. Which is... And the suspension is a bit more wobbly, as you can see there. It's scraping the ground as you go along. Because it doesn't have that modern day suspension. It's just a little bit more willowy. It's not Ferrari Daytona levels of wobble, or Jaguar Mark II. However, it is a fair bit of leaning for a supercar. And yeah, it's it keeps you on your toes, that's for sure. Keeps you on your toes. Now, if I wanted to test out these vehicles' lap times, I had to go to track. And Hockenheim seemed like the obvious solution. Nice mixture of straights and corners, technical corners, high speed, slow, hairpins, you name it. And I picked the slightly shorter straight because I wanted to be too unbalanced. And after a few flying laps here, the M1 really came into its own. It was very good. It did try to kill you every once in a while. You can see the last time the tires, they're not very big. They could have used something bigger than bicycle tires, but it just about keeps the 277 horsepower under control. And, well, the real advantage this car has is braking. Since it weighs over 500 pounds less than the M1, well, the 1M, sorry, I get those, 1M. It weighs 500 pounds less than the 1M. That means it can brake a lot later. So sure, the brakes are older, but since it weighs less, you can carry more speed into the corner, brake less, let off early, and then you can make the corner fine. Because the handling is actually very similar, but having a good 50 or 70 horsepower less does take its toll. And even on this more technical circuit, it did show in the lap times. In fact, the M1 was over a second slower than its more modern counterpart. I mean, that's to be expected. The modern counterpart is about 25 PI higher, which I'll admit is a fair disparity for just 25 PI, but it is a 30-year age gap. It is more powerful, has more modern-day suspension and tires and weight and all sorts of things. But I was a little surprised. I thought the M1 would put up a bit of a better fight. I wasn't expecting it to win necessarily, but I was expecting it to get a little closer than 1 and a bit seconds. But being modern gave it a fair advantage. So, with the lap times done, it only seemed right to move it to a full-on, proper race. Now, we're going to do this race at the Brickyard. We're going to do it purely from my perspective, because my perspective just happened to have A, real good highlights of the disparities between these vehicles, and B, some phenomenal racing, because I was put at the very back of the field in the lower class and slightly slower BMW M1. And thanks to the AIs being very bunched up and very conservative under brakes, I was able to just about squeeze between the wall and a bunch of other vehicles. It was very scary, but I did it. And you can see the kick of oversteer in the cold-tired M1. And immediately we're going too wide pretty much everywhere. 1Ms and M1s battling it out. Very original color schemes, white, black, or red with an occasional, not the most original color palette on the planet. They are German after all, but there you go. And if you stayed in the draft of the 1M, you were just about able to keep within firing range of the dive bomb. And as you can see here, I'm pretty much surrounded by 1Ms, and they're all black. It's not a race thing, that's just a color thing. They have the originality of a toddler when it comes to, actually, a toddler will probably have more originality when it comes to color schemes, but I digress. We did lose a M1 in an unfortunate pitting accident going through the chicane. It was very sad, but we had to move on because I was in about 13th place, and I had to go around the outside of superior handling car, and I was somehow the M1 decided to beat its rival and say, I will take that position and go around the outside of the more modern day counterpart. I was not expecting that to work, but it had enough grip. It was on the edge, but it had enough grip. It was real good. We did about a 6-lap race, about 10 minutes long. And, dare I say it was phenomenal. Because the AIs struggle. Sometimes they break in areas they don't need to. And they only accelerate as often sometimes. So you're gonna have like a mini overtaking challenge. So it's gonna be interesting how the rest of the AIs handle. But I decided to focus on mine because I actually had a lot of action, a lot of battling in this one. And yeah, you can see it's a fairly even split. It was 12v12 for M1s and 1Ms just to make it fair. And of course I was in the slower model, the lower PI, just to make it a bit more of a challenge for me to overtake vehicles, so I knew I was going to be faster than the AIs. And the M1s were holding their own. They were gradually, slowly falling into the field, but not as much as you would think. Now, I tried to go for the inside there, I couldn't get it, and I ended up almost losing a position to a 1M in my haste to overtake the field. Yeah. Yeah. But you can see the the 1M's straight line speed advantage, she actually has the inside here. So I have to go a long way around, go a little too wide actually. And end up losing the spot. Almost, I'm under threat now from a black one as well. We rub sides a little bit. We're door to door. I lose a little bit of time in that. And well, he will hold on to that position toward the end of the lap. Yeah, it was intense. It was intense racing, and you can see how close that 1M gets to the back of me. But since I'm on, he doesn't quite have the confidence to go for that inside line like I did. Doesn't quite have it. And then of course the late braking of the M1 can just catch you right up to the back of the newer model. It was a really interesting predicament because Indy has very big braking zones. Now they are followed up by straights, so the 1M would pull away, and then the M1 would close right back up in the braking zone. And since they're about even, albeit the M1 is a little more difficult to drive in the straights and in the handling, it's pretty darn close. Now the 1M there did a cheeky shortcut and cut the corner by about a car and a half. So I saw that, don't think I didn't see that. And yeah, you just see the M1s gradually falling through the order, but they were not falling through nearly as fast as I was expecting. And I'm still battling with these with this pair of 1Ms. Try to go around the outside. It just about works. The AIs are a little cowardly around there. I get on the grass a little bit, but now you see the straight line speed disparity. I'm alongside, heading onto the corner, and by the time I get off of the corner, he's already flying away. And that's not good. I will catch up right about now. But yeah, it was difficult. You also get a very, very close-up look of the back end of a 1M. I had a lot of those. A little bit of a slide, I will get the overtake done. Yeah, it was good fun. It was very good fun. And then you had a little bit of cooldown time, because there was a bit of the gaps did start to form, but yeah, it was impressive how the old dog was handling the new one. With its straight line speed disparity, but handling equality and superior braking. It really was a very interesting race. And with the help of a late braker in the form of the 1M up the road, I was able to catch up a lot because he went wide. Now I just have to find the overtake. And around the outside once again would work briefly. However, the straight line speed of the 1M would keep it alongside, and I just don't have the speed or the grip for that. If I had the grip, but not only the speed. I try to go for a dive, he just shuts the door. I get a very, very close, like so close the camera can't even see the car. And we have the same problem as last turn. Exact same position. I go to the inside this time. I can't quite get the run, so once again side by side, heading in the corner, and he just pulls away. It's kind of poetic. He just goes. And once again, I'll have to do the exact same strategy I did the previous lap around, and just dive, but this time, he leaves the door open and I can shoot to the inside. So, yeah, a bit easier past that one, and now I chase down a fellow M1. I do wish the AIs had a bit of a paint difference, because sometimes it can get confusing if you haven't been paying attention for a little while, and then, oh, by the way, there's two of the exact same car following each other. So, it was very fun. I was having a blast. As we head on to the final lap, I was in 5th place, chasing down a 1M, and if I could, 3rd place was a M1. And I knew I had about 2.5 miles to get 2 overtakes done, and he was doing a pretty good job. He covered the inside well for the first corner, and he covered the inside well again for the second corner, and I just couldn't quite hold it on the outside. I was really trying. It was too wide. We're rubbing a little bit. I'm still on the outside, and we're side by side, but he will have to run out of road for that one and heading into the chicane, and that will be my position. Now I have half a lap to go to chase down the exact same car as me. And there weren't very many overtaking spots left. That first section is real good for it, but there are a few left over here. I'm really going for it. I'm giving it maximum attack on this one, trying to catch the black M1 up there. And I gave him the only bump of the day on my part. Only bump of the day was on that 3rd place car. I'm trying to go around the outside. He shuts the door on the outside. I'm trying to look every which way. He shuts the door on the inside. I'm right behind him. I see my gap. I go for the inside. I dive bomb. And I get the position done. So, 3rd place will go to me with a bit of a sideways when he tried to fight back on the inside, but it didn't quite work. Yep, 3rd place will go to me with a bit of a sideways flurry for good measure. And your winner would be a white BMW M1. However, very close behind was a 1M. And then we had me in 3rd place somewhere. There I am. 3rd place would go to me, and the M1 as in 4th place. 5th place would be 1M. 6th place would be M1. Then we had 7th, 8th, 9th as 1Ms. 10th place would go to an M1. 11th place would go to a 1M. And 12th place would go to a M1. So it was actually a pretty even field. And remember, the M1 is 30 years older than the 1M. And it won the race. He was just able to keep in clean air. And they just didn't have enough laps to make up for that 1 second gain per lap. It just wasn't enough. So, yeah. So, in body style and engine layout and value, these two cars, the 1M and the M1, are drastically different. Yin-yang, black-white, different. But, when you look at them from a technical point of view, their power-to-weight ratio, their lap time, their performance on the track, you will find that these two cars, separated by 30 years, and their only name change is flipping the numbers and letters around, are very similar. And, well, if you can, I would highly recommend taking the two of them racing, and you will have an absolute blast. Now, personally, which one is my favorite? I would choose the M1 any day of the week. It looks better, it sounds better, it keeps you on the edge of your feet, just to make sure you don't fall asleep. And it's got pop-up headlights. What more do you need to say? But that's going to be it for this episode of Forza Motorsport. So I'll be back with more.